Hey folks, welcome to Notebreaks. This is my modified 2025 LEGO Star Wars ARC-170 Starfighter. The ARC-170 Starfighter is my favourite ship in all of Star Wars, and I do like a lot of ships in Star Wars, but this is the one that's always captured my imagination the most. I think it's always very iconic whenever it appeared in the Clone Wars, or especially in the opening scene of Revenge of the Sith. I was very excited when LEGO announced that they were going to make a new play scale model for 2025. My brother had the 2010 version with Kit Fisto, which I always thought was very cool. I never got it for myself, and I've always been looking forward over the last 15 years to when LEGO would make a new one. And I was very pleased with the model that they brought out. However, I did think, as did many other fans, that there were a couple of elements that were good but not quite there in terms of accuracy and just looking good on the shelf. So I pre-ordered the set when it was available on lego.com, and also at the same time started ordering a couple of parts that I thought would be useful to improve the bits that I wanted to improve. So in this video I'm going to walk through all the changes that I've made and hopefully show it in a way that means that you can do the same or similar, or improve even on my design as well. Hopefully you'll see that most of these changes are fairly straightforward. I think that the model is designed really well. The mechanism, especially in the middle, is perfect. I haven't touched it whatsoever, but it's just a lot of the peripheral details that I've changed, and so should be quite easy to reproduce should you want. So the main details that I've changed are the guns, the cannons on the end of the wings, the engines, or at least the front and the backs of the engines on either side of the fuselage. The wings, I've lengthened the two main wings. I haven't touched the small heat dissipation wings that extend as part of the mechanism, but these longer wings I have changed. In order to accommodate the engines, I've also made some structural changes to the fuselage in the middle, as well as changed some of the interiors of the cockpits, the rear-facing cannons, and just some small details and colour changes here and there where necessary. So let me talk you through step by step the changes that I've made, and I'll start with what most people noticed immediately were wrong, and those are the wingtip cannons. So what I'll do is I will remove one of the wings. They're very easy to remove, which is great. It's currently sitting on a custom brick-built stand, but I'll just move this out of the way and I'll show you this wing. On the end of it, first of all, the cannons. The cannons on the LEGO set were just way too short, totally inaccurate, and they included spring-load shooters, which I think are great for play, but not great for display. And so I have brick-built my own wingtip cannons, very much in the same style as the 2005 and 2010 especially models. Very simple brick-built construction. I've used some of the pieces from the original set, so these inverted slopes and this white tile. I've got an inverted 1x3 tile on the bottom just to smooth it off, and then just a simple brick and Technic construction for the main cannons. There are these two bricks are Technic pinholes, and so there's a 3-long Technic pin that goes through it just to give it a bit of stability, and so it's not wobbling around or bending on the end of the wings. And there you go. I've tried to get the length just about as right as possible, so when it sits on the end of the wing, it just about matches the nose of the fuselage. So those are the wingtip cannons, and then for the actual main wings, you'll see, if you're familiar with the set, that these tiles are new, so these white tiles here. All I've done essentially is I've added a 2x6 plate here, white, and then basically 7 studs of white tiles here, and just pulled the red bit and the white bit apart in order to add these in. The only bricks that I needed to add was this plate and these 2 tiles. You may notice that I've lost the shape of the wing ever so slightly. So before I added these tiles, the wing would slope down and then continue to slope down straight into the red. However, it now slopes down, plateaus, and then slopes down again. This could be fixed. I think if you add in the tiles before this slope begins. However, then you're also increasing the size of this gap. You're moving the grey tiles out into the open. They're no longer underneath the folding wings. But there potentially could be another solution as well. I thought though, when I put this together just as a test, I thought it looks good enough for me. I'm quite happy with it, and from a distance it doesn't look too obvious that there's slightly less of a slope. Really easy fix. 2 studs on this wing, 2 studs on the other wing, which gives you a much more movie accurate scale for the wings that match better the sort of ratio of wingspan to length of the ship. And I think it looks really good, really straightforward. So those are the wing tip cannons. Those are the length of the wings. Again, haven't touched these heat dissipation wings. The next thing I looked at was, whilst I was doing cannons, I thought I would adjust the cannons on the rear of the ship. So let me bring this forward. All I've done is I've basically swapped out the cannons for slightly longer ones, made them all black just to sort of fit the aesthetic of the wingtips cannons as well. And there was a small gap in between these two parts of the fuselage, which I've just included this piece here. Not sure if this is particularly accurate to the movie, but I thought it looked quite good and just gave you a bit of an angular shape at the back. You'll also notice whilst we're here that these pieces here, these large round Technic pieces, in the original set were gunmetal grey, and I've now switched them to white. If you look at source material, you'll see that the white kind of comes from, let me get something to point this out without dropping the Lego on the end of my desk. So the white from the fuselage comes through the engine into the wing, and then it joins back up to the fuselage through this part of the engine as well. And I've also changed these 2 plates to black as well, just so it's got a bit of a cleaner look rather than using the dark grey. There are a couple of other colour changes as well. There was some tan plates in the wings, which I've swapped out for white, just tried to clean it up where necessary. And then for the cockpits, again, another very iconic part of this ship, the triple cockpits for the pilot, the navigator and the gunner. I have included, get my pointer, I've included a control panel for the gunner, as he didn't have any controls to begin with. I've raised by about 2 plates the control panel for the navigator. I've raised the astromech by 1 plate, just so when the cockpits are closed, his head actually sticks out above, rather being sort of halfway in between, and he can see above the navigator's cockpit. And then in the pilot seat, I've also raised up the controls and added these 2 bar and stud pieces to give the illusion of sort of control sticks for the pilot. They don't kind of stick up for him to hold because the cockpit needs to be able to close flush along that part, but it just adds a little bit of extra detail. Before I look at the engines then, which are the main change that you'll notice, I'll just show you on the bottom of the ship. I have added a couple of plates and tiles here to cover some of the gap of the tech that reveal the Technic pieces, and I've added some slopes along the bottom. Very easy, just 1x2 and 1x1 cheese slopes in white, a couple here as well. They just kind of round it out a little bit more. In the original set, it just looked a bit jarring with just the pure plates with the studs exposed on the top. And so, let me now show you the engines, which are the most important change that I wanted to make, maybe sort of tied with the wingtip cannons, and also the most challenging, but not as challenging as you might think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this here, very easy to remove, and let's look first at the modifications I had to make to the fuselage. So these engines that I designed pretty much as soon as I saw the pictures and pre-ordered the set, I knew that I wanted to make a bigger engine that was more proportional to the size of the rest of the ship, and also especially the cockpits that it sits next to. The problem is though, is that because these engines are wider than the engines that come on the original model, and they don't actually fit flush with these with the existing engine parts, because the fuselage sticks out too much. So initially, I'll just take off this one plate for example. The fuselage was actually one plate wider than you see it here. It sort of kind of follows this curve, and then it's got two more curved bits here, and this sticks out by literally one plate, one tile. And this was too much for my engine. So what I had to do is a couple of things. First of all, I had to take these tiles with the stickers on and bring them in. That required no parts. It actually required just getting rid of a couple of parts. Bring this in, so now this is, it kind of comes around on these smooth bits and then is flush all the way to the center. And then I had to also clear up some space in the middle here. So because of the previous assembly, there were some snot bricks here with studs not on top. I had to replace those with normal bricks and tiles, so that was a smooth flat surface. And then if I open this up as well, you'll see here, if you're familiar with the original set, that this was a 2x3 sort of angled tile, which, because the angle of this piece, let me use a pointer so it's a bit clearer, came all the way to this stud underneath this new curved brick, it jutted out just too much in the corner to get an engine nicely sort of aligned right in that corner. So I've had to do a little bit of jiggery pokery and change some of the pieces. Again, maybe 5 or 6 new parts. Very, very easy parts to find, nothing particularly complicated, but just had to shave off some bricks in order to get the space for the engines. And then of course the engines themselves. So first thing, remove the engines, and then this was a 6-long Technic axle. I've replaced it to a black 4-long Technic axle that sits, it goes through this grey Technic part and just sort of anchors in this black Technic part back here. And then the engines. There are kind of 2 main parts. The first part is the front, the intake. This is just a 6x6 round white plate with these sort of dark red macaroni slope pieces that go on the edge. And then I've used a very legal but often sort of disputed technique, which is simply, I've got a black, let me get it so you can see the light, black tile in the middle and a black plate with a hole in the middle around the outside, and then this drum lacquered silver 1x4 tile. You could use just a normal bluish grey tile, you could use any tile that you want, but I thought I'd go for drum lacquered silver just so it stands out a little bit more, and that just sits between the studs right there. It's not quite flush, it's very close, but I think that's good enough for me. And when a light or a lamp or the sun hits it, that drum lacquered silver bit really shines and comes into it, so which I thought was quite cool. I then have this assembly with simply 4x4 round bluish grey plate, and then snot bricks. Snot bricks could be any colour that you want, and this just quite simple plate and tile assembly which goes on there. It's a sort of squarish look, but I think it does the job. And then this bit in the middle is loose, and that's really important. You see, the axle here, in the way that it's anchored into the rest of the engine through this black Technic bit here, it can't twist, it can't change. However, I want the engines to sit at 45 degrees in order to get that nice 45-degree slope of the intake, which is very iconic. So what I did is I've got this, you can see there's a plate, a tile in the middle with a hole, then a 2x2 plate and a 2x2 plate with a jumper. 2x2 plate with jumper sits in there, and this can twist. This then sits in the center, and now this is locked together with the studs. However, if I put this through, you can see that that bearing in the middle can twist, and there's a decent amount of friction through the stud that connects to the front, so that twists, which means that when I attach this here, that's how it would look if I didn't have the bearing, which is obviously wrong, but now I can just twist it ever so slightly, 45 degrees, and now have that iconic engine intake shape. And that's it. That is all the modifications and changes that I've made to the 2025 LEGO Star Wars ARC-170 Starfighter. I think it looks fantastic. I'm sure there is more that could be changed. I'm sure someone could come up with a slightly better wing design to make sure that you don't lose that nice curve at the back. But for all intents and purposes, this is as good as I've managed to get it on my first pass. I love the ship. I think it looks great. And I hope that if you pick up this set, that you enjoy it as it comes out the box, or if you want to modify it slightly in different ways, that you can find a way that suits you best. But yeah, and before I finish, I'll just put it alongside my 2014 Anakin's Jedi Starfighter. It does look good, doesn't it? I also made a buzz droid, but maybe I'll make a separate video about the buzz droid. And yeah, thanks for watching.